Being born broke isn't a choice, but staying there is. I don't like how we normalize poverty, going from check to check. And you either gonna build your dreams and goals or you're gonna build somebody else's, and the choice is yours.
But do what you need to do once you get the money, and don't lie to get the money. Because when you say spend, to a lot of people they said, I'm never gonna get that.
That's mindset though.
That's mindset.
Yes.
I'm never gonna get that back. But if you say invest, you're thinking, I'm going to get something back for that.
Right, it's an investment. Because we do have content creators watching this, and I'm sure they want to know, like, well, how come her page is popping and how come mine isn't?
Because it's Nicka.
I had a nice camera when I shot my footage, so...
You don't even need all them expensive things.
What do you need?
You need drive. You need consistency. You need discipline. There's no magic pill for success.
Welcome back to the Content Parlor. I'm your host, Dion. I'm here with my co-host,
Teddy Young.
Welcome back, brother. Welcome back. We got some exciting news today. But before we get into that, let's do some quick housekeeping. Today we are talking about finance the right way. The Content Parlor is a social club for content creators. You can connect with us on multiple platforms. The full-length episodes are on YouTube at Content Parlor, and then on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the social platforms. Yeah, I think I got most of the important ones, not the ones that might get annexed out of the United States or whatever. But the Content Parlor is a social club for content creators. What that means is the space that we're in right now is available for you to rent. Content creators, the equipment, the microphones, the lighting, the cameras, the lenses, it's all available for rental right now at the website contentparlor.com. Make sure you go out and follow us on social media, and also be sure to hit the bell notification on YouTube to make sure you get the latest and greatest updates. We got some special guests here today. Teddy keeps looking at him, so I can't hide it any longer. I'm a gentleman, so we have to go with the ladies first.
Yeah.
What's your name, and how can people connect with you if they learn something from you today?
Excuse me, clock that. I am your girl, Nicka Johnson, the owner and founder of a company called Budget to Success. That's 2TO, and I'm on all social media platforms at Budget to Success.
Glad to have you here
Thank you.
today. I know it's going to be some gems dropped.
Of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For taking time out. We've got a young man. It looks like maybe 5 years younger than me.
Yeah,
Dresses very nice. You may notice some similarities.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. How can people connect with you? What do you do?
Okay, my name is Frank Hayes. I'm a CPA here at Omaha. I own a firm called Hayes and Associates. We can be reached via email. Our office on 132nd and Pacific. Our address, we're on all social, well, not all social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn. And also, we just been around for a while, been around for over 40 years, providing services to businesses and individuals. So hopefully helping them to build their wealth and stay away from problems that might be generated from a financial standpoint.
Now, just to clarify, you said 40 years? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, we've been in business for 42 years.
I got to give a round of applause to that. That is absolutely amazing. We hit 10 years today. That's one of our, or not today, but this year.
Yeah,
that's one of our big announcements today.
Yeah.
And you've done that 4 times already. So congratulations.
It's been a ride, but it's been fun.
Yeah.
Been challenging at times, but it's been fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming today. We just have a couple questions for you guys. We want to learn, and actually, I think we'll probably learn something too today. But, content creators who we serve don't always have their finances in order. So we wanted to talk with you guys about how to navigate these things. So I'm going to pass it over to Teddy. I think you had a couple of questions that you wanted to ask.
I do. Before we can get into that, I do want to know, you can go in any order, but what inspired you to, want to help people with money?
Go ahead, Nicka.
Good question. Being born broke isn't a choice, but staying there is. You have the choice. So fail forward, fail fast. And when it comes to your money, that's what the world's going to go around when it comes to credit. So when I think of credit, it's your adult GPA. It's your reflection of your buying power. Are you going to buy a house? Are you going to rent a house? Are you going to get a car, a job, your car insurance? Everything you do, I don't care what your profession is, a content creator or not within the workforce development, you need credit. And I don't like how we normalize poverty, going from check to check.
Yeah.
And you're either going to build your dreams and goals or you're going to build somebody else's. And the choice is yours. And so within that is I grew up in a single parent home with a repeated cycle teenage pregnancy at the age of 16. And I always said that this is not okay. I wanted more for myself and I became that example for others. And so within that is I have the uncomfortable conversation surrounding money. Folks want to look like they got money but don't want to have it. Especially on these social media streets. And so within that is we don't have to wear our wealth. And so it's so important to have that financial literacy if you truly want to be successful, because only you can define that level of success, but your health is your wealth. So your financial success, your mental success, your physical, and all those aspects.
That's good. Health is your, I thought she said it backwards until she landed it. Health is your wealth, man. Frank?
Well, to me, it's about flexibility. When we are coming up in life, I'm from a fairly large family. I was born on a farm and raised on a farm. I have 10 brothers and sisters, and we had very little money. I'll just say it that way. So you learn how to do with little to nothing, right? But the thing that hit me was that because of that, whenever something happened, or you needed an extra dollar here or there was never an opportunity to be flexible on where you would get that dollar. And so for me, it was like creating or helping people to create an opportunity for flexibility. We all make decisions on a regular basis, and sometimes those decisions are forced upon us because of our financial condition.
For sure.
She mentioned credit, and that's an excellent example. Most of us use vehicles to drive. But when we go out and buy a car, if our credit is bad, we're going to end up paying more for that car, which is going to hurt us in the long run. So to me, it's about having the flexibility to do things differently and just understanding the way our society is set up. Money isn't the answer to everything. It's a tool. And so my other goal was to ensure that people had the tools that they needed to make good decisions. So coming from my background and where I was born and raised, it was very important. I've never worshiped money. That is not my thing. But I understood that money is a tool. It's a piece of what you need in this environment in which we live in order to be successful at anything, really. And so that's the way I look at it. It's about flexibility and helping people to make the kinds of decisions and having the right tools to make those decisions.
That's
Right on,
good.
thank you. Yeah, I just love what we're doing here today is just having this conversation. Not at this conversation with folks on our team. It's like, family gatherings, even with friends, we talk about all these other things. You talk about sports, just whatever else is going on, but we never talk about money.
Yeah.
Why does
What
not
people are
normalized?
doing, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's doing something. Why aren't we talking about it? I mean, you don't have to have everybody in all your business and details, but we could be sharing our knowledge with each other,
Right.
what
Yeah.
we're doing.
Absolutely.
Build that ecosystem.
Yeah.
Should it be taught in school? Should finance be taught?
I've been working on that.
Okay.
So I get a lot of feedback, backlash about this, but it's not in the education system. Let's keep it a buck. And it should not be a elective class in the sense of if you fill out a math. We need financial literacy not in just high school. We need it in middle school. We need it in elementary. It's the foundation. It's the blueprint. It's just like if you are building a house and you don't have a solid foundation, it's going to crumble. You're going to crumble if you don't understand the importance of financial literacy. Why do we get to choose JOTC and then prepare to go to the Army? You get to even get a fake baby to how to be a parent. So we go glorify that. You could choose home economics and how to cook. But the one thing that's going to drive you in this world is your finances, and that's not taught.
That's true.
I couldn't agree more. Obviously, there's a big age gap here between me and Nicka, but I couldn't agree with her more. And I think that the problem a lot of the issues that we have are not even that complicated. They're just, when you have a child, you can start them you can do it on the in-house too, not just at school, but at home.
Yeah.
Get them, set them up a bank account. See, some people don't even know how to deal with banks. I'm going to use an example.
Okay.
Back during the COVID times, during PPP, people heard of PPP.
Yes.
Okay.
PP prison.
Yeah, and it was crazy because we had businesses that we work with that couldn't get a PPP
They
loan.
couldn't get a loan.
Because they didn't have the appropriate financial information.
Preach.
It wasn't a lot, but the minimum amount that they needed, they couldn't even get the loan. And that is, and you know, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a passionate person when it comes to black folks, right?
Yeah.
And no disrespect to anybody else, but when it comes to just that example, I saw millions and millions of dollars that didn't get utilized because we did not have the appropriate financial information to get those loans.
Not being
I don't know if you guys know this, but banks received a certain allotment of money.
Yeah.
And then you applied to the bank
Yeah.
and they gave you the loan.
Yeah.
Do you realize that if they didn't loan that money out, it set an account that the bank earned interest on?
Wow.
And one of the primary reasons people couldn't get PPP loans, they didn't even have a financial statement. They
No
couldn't go to the
P&Ls.
bank. And not only that, even more important, they didn't have a relationship
With the
the
banker.
financial
There you go.
institution.
No relationship.
And so I sometimes hate to talk about finance if people think that's the only thing. That is not the only thing.
Right.
But it is so important that we understand what the world is about so that when those opportunities come along, like during COVID, where there were people who could have sustained their business with these loans. And some people were saying, well, I'm not going to get the loan because I don't want to deal with the government. Well, what ended up happening, they forgave the loans.
Yes,
so you
they
didn't
did.
deal with the government.
Yeah.
So I had clients calling me and saying, should I do it? I said, of course, do it.
It's free money.
And so, but do what you need to do once you get the money, and don't lie to get the money. And there is no reason to lie.
No.
So my thing is, when you don't have that education, when you don't understand what is important, you really hurt yourself in the long run. So I just want to encourage people to learn as much as they can about finances so that when that opportunity comes out,
'Cause it
whether it
will
be a
happen.
good or a
Yeah.
negative,
Yeah.
you can take advantage of it.
Capitalize.
So that's
Right on.
very, very
I know
important.
that's one of the things that we did do in the beginning that we did get right in the beginning of our business. We made sure our financials were good.
Okay.
And so when that opportunity came, it was pretty
You
easy.
were able
Yes.
to
for
take
us to
advantage
get.
of it.
I mean, we were just doing the basic stuff. If you had the basic stuff, you were able to get that.
Yeah, some paperwork.
Yeah.
It sound like you had a follow-up to
So I have 15 years in the financial sector. And so I was at a local credit union. There was rooming to be an AVP during that time of PPP. And it's, how can I say this the nice way? Ain't no nice way. I'm blunt. I'm a no chaser. A lot of people don't have their paperwork together. They don't have no P&Ls. Real bosses pay taxes. So that's one thing that social media influencers, content creators, self-employed, they're not paying taxes. And it's a strategy. You have to pay money to make money. And so if you need to start grow and scale your business, or if you want to do anything, you have to show that you're making money on paper. And so that was one thing, is that people don't have their P&Ls. It's easy as that, okay, if you make $40,000, that's not $40,000 of your money.
Yeah.
With-
Can you explain, because there'd be some people that
Okay.
don't know what P&L is. Can
So
you-
profit loss statement. So as far as what is the income coming into your company and your business and compared to within your expenses.
Okay.
And so think of budgeting. I always say budget to success, budget your way to success. That's how I became successful, is that you need to budget within your business as well. Do
Okay.
you have 3 months of your working capital? What is your reserve? The same way that people wasn't able to get the PPP loan is why people can't get grants. Is why people can't go get business funding. The reason why they're stuck. And a lot of black people have great ideals, so talented, but you cannot go anywhere because you don't do your due diligence and make for sure you have your paperwork together.
I hear you.
Okay. Right
Yeah,
on.
and it's really unfortunate because there is opportunity out there. Now, I'm not going to paint a picture that it's equal, and it's
No.
not. There's also always will be some distance between that. But there is opportunity if we have our act together. And when I say, and there is no reason not to have our act together. I mean, for me, it's almost like even if you don't want to do it yourself, there's all kinds of people like Nicka here who can help you to get and they understand the importance of this.
Yeah.
And it's available to you. And there's all kinds of resources through government, through Nebraska and the state and the federal, all of that. So just understand what I get frustrated. I'm going to tell you, I get frustrated when people don't appreciate the need for this. It's like I have this great idea and I'm going to go out and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, that's all good, but once you make that money, what you going to do with it? And how are you going to manage it?
Right.
How are you going to make it work for you?
Yep.
See, what people do, we spend a lot of our own labor making money, but then we take that money and then we don't make it work for us. We want to spend it quickly, get rid of it,
Don't
do
invest.
whatever. Money, the reason why people are wealthy is because the money that they've made it work for them. Right?
Assets.
And so this is the way you get that information with the P&L, with the balance sheet, with the other things that you need. That's what's going to give you the information
Yeah.
to make the kinds of decisions that Nicka is talking about.
Right on. Now, y'all hit up on it. Now, it is tax season, right?
Yeah.
And there's creatives watching this, freelancers, and there's some people that have, day jobs and they're doing it on the side, but there are some things they could take advantage of tax-wise. Can you talk about some of those things?
I will, yes. First of all, are you in business? Are you playing around?
Or is it a hobby?
Yeah.
I was going to say, is it a business or is it a hobby? Because it's a difference.
Or is it a hobby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm not saying anybody is in a hobby.
Okay.
I'm saying you make that decision. You're the artist. You're the creative. What are you doing? Are you doing this just to enjoy yourself, which is great? Or are you doing it to enjoy yourself and also make some money, which is even greater, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to, you got to first understand that. Are you in business or are you in a hobby? Or are you just playing around, is the way I put it. So if you're in business, you need to understand you're in business. That means act like a business.
Ooh.
Don't just go out there and throw money around. Oh, I don't spend this. A business is for profit.
To make money.
Right. I have many clients come to me and they have all these great ideas. I said, but how are you going to generate revenue?
That's the big question.
Well, my idea was so great. I said, but you just don't, people, unless you got something totally wonderful that's never been created, nobody's going to run to your door and start asking you to sell it to them. You got to first understand, are you in it to make money or are you just in it just for fun? And if you're in it to make money, you treat your business like any other business. You're no different than anyone else. It's some simple things that people do that just run me crazy. They mix their personal and their business.
Comingo.
And they put everything in one bank account. And they have no idea what's business and no idea what's personal. Mistake. Terrible mistake, right?
Okay.
The other thing that people need to understand is when you're starting out your business, you're going to have expenses. Even before you go into business officially, you got to set your business up. You got to do all the deals with maybe an attorney and other people. You got to run here, run there. You got travel expenses. You got transportation expenses. You got gas.
Marketing.
You got supplies. You just like any other business, but keep in mind, at the end of the day, decide whether you're doing this for business reasons or you're doing it because you just like doing it. It's a difference.
It seems so simple, but it's so powerful. And it just makes me think of this conversation we've been having in the office.
Yeah.
When I was in college, the instructors would always say, you got to have bail, you got to have bail, you got to have your banker, your accountant, insurance, and legal.
Yeah.
And we said, now wait a second, there's no marketing in there.
Yeah.
In this social media age, in this modern age, you got to have marketing too.
Yeah.
So we retooled it
Oh my
to
God.
Mabel. To Mabel.
Just the debut.
Mabel.
To Mabel.
Okay.
So now you got your marketing, your accountant, your banking, your insurance.
You notice
and
they
your
put
legal.
marketing first?
Yeah, I see.
If you don't know how you're gonna sell your stuff,
First of all, you gotta have your business registered. Is it an LLC or C corp? Everybody don't need to be an LLC. That's another thing. So don't get started.
Maybe legal should go.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, the point is you are hitting that right on the head.
Yeah.
That folks got to go into business understanding that you're going to have to spend some money.
Spend money to make money.
Yeah.
One. A couple of things you said. Business. Let's talk about business. That's not at a Gmail, not at a Yahoo, not at Outlook. You need a business professional domain, especially when you're going to get business credit and business funding. That's one. And then two, don't listen to everybody on social media because during PPP, fire your boss, go get an LLC, and now you wasted or you lost a lot more money. Everybody's not meant to be their own boss, and that's
true.
okay.
That's true.
But you need to know who you are, because one thing that have made me excel well in my company is that if you're a good employee, you'll be a good employer. But if you go in late and if you always making excuses, you always calling in, that same driving energy you had is going to transfer. It's transferable skills. But when it comes to business with preparing for taxes, is that you need to grow with your accountant. You need to date your accountant. Fire people in a sense of making sure you interview them. Are they in alignment with your company and your projections of how much money you're going to make? Sure. So I'm not going to work with someone that don't understand if I'm building a multi-million business. If I have certain aspects of my business, if it comes to real estate, do you know how to file proper taxes when it comes to that? You need an accountant on your team, a tax preparer. And stop asking everybody on Facebook. Use your resources. Do your research. Yes.
So are you telling me that people shouldn't be going on Facebook and posting and then not even following up with the people and doing their own research?
You better off going to ChatGPT. Go get some resources. Talking about who you think for accounting. When you ask that, I don't give my accountant information because they work with people at higher income tax brackets. So it's based off of your industry. You want to find somebody that specializes into that. And then also to clarify is that everybody don't need an LLC, because when you're really making money, you should transfer it to an S corp.
And what I would
Escort, let's go.
Yeah, there's one sort of comment that's been said a couple of times, and it becomes problematic with some people. When you say spend money to make money, I put a little different slant on that. I say invest money to make money.
I love that.
In other words, when you're hiring a professional, whether it be an attorney, someone like you guys, lawyer, accountant, whoever, if you're thinking spending all the time, your decision is going to be based, how do I spend the less amount? When you think investing, I'm going to invest with this attorney. I'm going to invest with this accountant. You're thinking, how am I going to get that money returned to me?
Yeah.
You should never invest with someone unless you think you're going to get a return. Now, what is the return going to come to you as? Great help, advice, help you grow your business, like she was saying, point out those areas where you need to improve. You're getting a return on your investment. So I sort of put it in that context. Because when you say spend, to a lot of people, they said, I'm never going to get that back.
That's mindset, though.
That's mindset.
Yes.
I'm never going to get that back. But if you say invest, you're thinking, I'm going to get something back for that.
It's an investment.
And so if you look at your people that you put on your team, think,
They should all be investments.
Yeah. And because they are going to do things for your business that's going to help you feel like you're getting a return.
That's beautiful.
And that's the way I sort of put it, because really, to be honest, there are so many things you can spend money on. And if you're just out spending money, then you may not be getting a return for those investments. If you're investing, and I put it in every context. So when she said interview your person, if you're investing in something, somebody came to you and said, give me $10,000.
What are you going to do?
What you going to do with them?
Right.
Are you going to just give them $10,000, or are you going to ask them some questions?
We'll ask them some questions.
And it's the same thing here. If you're going to get a professional to help you on your team, make sure, like she said, they align with you, because there's going to be a greater chance of getting a return on that investment. That's I just use that because when people think of spend, you can spend your money anywhere.
That's so true.
But if you're investing, you're going to be a little bit more. You're going to ask a little bit more discretion in how you invest.
Now, when you invest, think of not how much money this is going to cost me, how much money this is going to make me, how much money this is going to save me.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah, and that's a philosophy that I actually say from time to time. Is I really don't care how much stuff costs. I care how much I'm going to make. And I always say I'm fine spending $1 million a day if I'm going to make $1,100,000.
Yeah.
I'm making $100,000 a day. That sounds like a good investment. to
Right.
me.
And so, that's
10%.
just a philosophy.
10% return.
And like you said, a mindset of
Yeah,
how you look
yeah.
at your business. But you also, let me take that a step further. She mentioned not everybody is meant to be their own boss.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. I ask people when they come to me and they think about starting a business, I say, okay, why are you starting a
Yeah,
business?
why? Your
I
purpose.
ask them why. And they said, why does it matter? I said, it matters. Why are you starting a business? I want to be my own boss.
Why though?
And then I say, okay, do you realize if you grow your business and you have 100 clients, you're going to have 100 bosses?
Man, it's like
You're not going to have one boss.
Right.
There is no,
It's like
I'm
I
going to
got
be my
20,
own boss.
30
I've got
bosses.
100 bosses out there. And guess what? They all want the same thing at the same
Same
time. And so I tell people all the time, just think about what you're doing. Don't get me wrong. I love it that people want to go out and do their own thing. I encourage it. But just think about why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because that's going to drive your success or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And so just think of it that way. And then I want to go back to something you asked Teddy earlier. You said, what are some of the tax benefits?
Yeah.
Well, a creative has the same tax benefits anyone else does.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're in business.
Okay.
Okay.
They're in business.
And you can have any kind of expense that one might have, equipment like you have in here, your supplies, you have payroll, people you might be paying, you have an office in the home, you can claim that. You have transportation going back and forth doing whatever.
Cell
You can
phones.
claim that. Cell phone.
Travel.
Anything, the social media, the PR, the marketing, all that.
Shopping.
So it's all the same thing, but it's based on the fact that you're in business and you're not in a hobby,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Right. Okay. Now you were talking about LLC, S corp. Well, like what are we talking about here? What are those?
Your business structure, how you want us to do it. Is it going to be a LC, a S corp, a limited, a sole prop, or is it going to be a corporation? So how you're going to choose. And we do not have to put your business structure and your email address or online on Facebook. Budget is assessed LLC. Stop putting out that's nobody business, and that change as you grow in your company. So yes, it's your business entity how you register it.
And so, can you talk about, before we get into social media, how each one has its own advantages and disadvantages? Because when we registered ours, Teddy, I think originally wanted to do LLC. I was exposed to some other things, so I thought about the S corp. We met with an accountant and I believe at that time an attorney too back then, and got the final recommendations and then waited from there. But thinking long term, it made more sense for us to do S corp because we saw ourselves growing and
Save
expanding.
money.
So what are those tax benefits?
Right?
Well, yeah.
Let's just say S corp, LLC, and sole proprietors.
Well, let me just say this. The big reason you do any of these entities is liability. Okay. And this is the big thing. It's not really tax, but it's liability.
Okay.
There are some tax differences. But if you're a sole prop, everything that you own, personal,
Solo
business,
dolo.
is subject to lawsuit.
Yep.
They can take it from you. If you're an LLC, the only assets you put at risk are the assets within the LLC.
Yes.
Okay.
As an S corp, same thing. As a corp, C corp, same thing. Now the favorite for new businesses is the LLC. Okay, the LLC allows you to operate a business even as one member, even if you're the only owner and the only employee, and it protects your assets from any liability.
Okay.
Tax-wise, you're taxed on the income personally. Same thing with an S corp. So really, the S corp gets you the opportunity to act like an LLC legally, but also pay yourself a salary.
Yes.
and then manage the profitability of your company for tax purposes. So that's why the S corp becomes more
Yes.
relevant as you make more money.
Okay.
It's not necessarily you have to go to an S corp. Becomes more relevant as you make more money, because then you have more decisions to make with your money.
Right.
And then the S corp gives you more flexibility.
And there's more paperwork.
And
with
there's
the
more
S-corp as
paperwork.
well.
A little bit more paperwork depending on the structure.
Okay.
But I will tell you that when it comes to that aspect of business, my recommendation, because laws change and they do things change, and when it comes to LLCs, they're different by state. What you
Okay.
can do in Nebraska is not necessarily the same you can do in Iowa. Whether you file a return in Iowa or Nebraska or another state is different. So just if you're doing business across state lines or in various states, you need to be aware of what the requirements are for each particular type of entity.
And that's why it's so important to have your Mabel in place, right?
Yeah.
Because,
Accountant.
well, one thing that we've learned is that your attorney may know certain pieces, but the accountant has some
don't know other.
pieces. You need to put that
It's the
together
team.
to really know
Absolutely.
what's best.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they have the accountant and they think they're covered.
Yeah.
But the legal part, they missed out on some benefits that first or second year. So as we kind of expand on that, because as you were talking, some of the stuff sounded personal. It sounded like you've had some personal experiences. So what are some of those pitfalls that people face going back to the tax season that you kind of look at and you say, I wish they would have known that. We could have taken care of that for them this
Well,
season.
I'll give you an example right now. We're dealing with a client right now that had an LLC, okay? But they made a lot of money,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
So what that means is all that income is going to be taxed to them individually. All right? They didn't pay estimates, quarterly estimate.
Oh.
So they got a big tax bill.
Uh-oh.
And so they said, well, I heard about S Corp. What can I do? I was like, unfortunately, you're too late to do anything about last year. So the personal part for me, Dion, is I hate to see people pay taxes that they don't need to pay. Don't get me wrong. I know we
It's
have
strategy.
to.
That's
I
all
know
it
we
is.
have to pay taxes.
Sure.
And
But not
it's-
too much.
But if we can do
more do you need
things that can mitigate that,
Yeah.
ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And so often we wait until it's too late to start talking about taxes. We wait until the next year. And so what we try to get our clients to do is to say, throughout the year, come talk to us.
Yeah.
Let
I
us
was gonna
know
say that
what's
every
going
quarter.
on every quarter. And maybe there are some things that you can do before the end of the year to minimize your taxes. What we do at Hayes and Associates, our idea is we're not going to keep you from paying taxes. We would never tell you that unless we know specifically your situation.
Yeah.
We want to minimize, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with minimizing your taxes.
Right.
It's not illegal. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what people do all the time.
Strategy.
As you can imagine, you probably heard a particular person who happens to be our president right now that doesn't pay taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How in the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
Well, he got a bunch of people helping him to realize how not to do that. And there's nothing wrong with it. Businesses should do whatever they can to maximize their bottom line.
Right.
Yes.
And minimizing taxes is a way that you can do that. So it's not personal necessarily, but it's like I get a little annoyed when people don't take advantage
I gotcha.
of the advice that you can give them to help them.
Yes.
And they wait too long. That's sort of that's what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how does that look quarterly, Nicka? How do people get that anticipation to reach out? How do they know when they should reach out quarterly? To
With
get
the accountant, honestly, you should be meeting with your accountant at least at minimum quarterly. And to be able to look at your projections, looking at how much money you're making, are you going to make more or are you going to less? How do you gauge it? And then also when you mentioned, so fun fact, my first job was at Jackson Hewitt Income Taxes.
Oh, okay.
I was 15 years old. My mom had a tax office she managed it for over 20 years. So that was my first job doing taxes, being a receptionist, printing checks and things like that. So it's the one thing that people are like, oh, it's tax season. You know, I don't care about tax season because I gotta pay. I do a tax extension. That's what I do. But by the end of the year, like Frank was saying, is that your accountant will be able to help you and say, hey, I may need you to go make a big purchase.
Yeah.
These is where we want to get into the realms of when you're making money in your business of go buy that house, go buy that car, or a strategy of you have a S corp and then you have a nonprofit, so you could be able to fund money into that as a tax deduction. So there are tax shields. There's things that you can protect yourself
Okay.
in regards to that aspect. So yes,
Very good
And the
info.
one last thing I would add to what she just said, retirement planning.
yes, maxing out those
It's
accounts and things like that.
never too early
To
to
retire.
start retirement
yes.
planning. And so with an S corp, you can do more with retirement plans than you can with an LLC.
Okay.
Yes.
All
And
right,
so
Teddy,
just realize that it's never too early
No.
and it's never too late. So I try to get people to come in before the end of the year so I see where they're sitting. And then we can say, oh, if there's something we need to do before a year end, so you can take advantage of that. To me, there's nothing better than what I would call a solo 401k.
Okay.
What that is you can contribute as an employee
Yep.
and your company can match it. And so that money is coming to you. Can do that as a solo employee,
Yeah.
just yourself. So and people don't take advantage of that, and
'Cause they don't know.
And it could add up to hundreds of thousands of
Yes.
dollars, and minimizing your taxes significantly.
Interesting.
And so these are the kinds of things. When she said meet once a quarter, those conversations come up. Whereas if you're not meeting,
Yes.
they don't even
You don't
come
know.
up.
Right.
They don't know. And most business people don't have time to be looking at tax laws
Yes.
throughout the year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
End of the year, yeah.
Let me simplify it. So for those that's watching and don't understand it, if you're broke now, you're gonna be broke tomorrow unless you do something about it. And that aspect is that if you feel like you're struggling, maybe you became a content creator, maybe you started your own business and want to be entrepreneurship to have more money. A lot of our family don't talk about is how your mom is working past the age of retirement. Your grandma, like if one thing as a loan officer and having 15 years in the financial sector is that a lot of people are on fixed income, so you can't go get funding. You can't get loans. You can't go buy a house. You can't do those things because you're on a fixed income. So why retirement? So I'm going to disagree with you and we say it's never too late. No, it is too late. It's never too early to start investing into your retirement, and let's normalize that and to make for sure you have that safety net long term. We think about now because you're typically in survival mode. It's the let's get through the day to day to day, but how can we project or oversee the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? How do you make for sure financially you're sound and you are protected, and knowing your number? How much money do you want to make? How much money, what type of lifestyle do you want to live at the age of retirement? We have to start talking about things, but always invest early. Even if you are having that 9 to 5 still, don't leave no money on the table. If your employer contribution is 5%, don't do 2%. Baby, I need you to match it.
Yeah.
When you get a pay increase, I wasn't taking money home. I increased my retirement contribution. So those are things that you could be able to do to make for sure that you are protected.
And you would be amazed at how many people don't do what she just said.
Wow.
They work for a company. The company has a 401k. The company contributes, and they don't.
Yeah.
It just happens.
It's free money.
on the table.
It happens more often. And again, think of an investment.
Yeah.
If I put $1 into my retirement account and they put $1 in, I've made 100%. Where can you make 100%?
Yes.
Right.
Right
That's
on.
crazy.
And not only that, it's tax free until you take it out.
Yeah.
Dang.
So people don't take advantage of that.
Yeah.
People don't think about that. And I'm just, and you know, you picked up on, look, I get annoyed at that. I'm sorry, because to me,
I
it
can
is
see
so
it in your
simple.
face.
It is so easy. Well, it maybe ain't easy. But when you think about it, she said something much earlier. She said, well, she didn't, when she got a raise, she invested more.
Right.
That's another thing. Learn to live within our means.
Below your means. Budget.
And learn budget. Understand where your expenses are going. When you have a certain income, don't overspend. Don't go out and get a big credit card and all this stuff. Because what it does, it decreases your flexibility to make good decisions.
Yep.
So I want to get into, because we got Nicka here talking about credit.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot of business people out here who just don't understand the way credit works. They're not using it properly. They're maxing themselves out, or they're just not taking advantage of it at all. For those individuals that are kind of like floundering, they're kind of trying to figure out what to do. What are some best practices, like top 3 best practices to get your credit right and to get on the right. You know, I see you got the nice truck
Oh,
outside.
there, touch your nose, touch your nose.
You got the bag on when
Oh
you
my
walk in, so you know credit's looking good on the outside. All right, so let's unpack that a little bit.
I don't wear my wealth, but I have a nice house, car, and experiences because you can't get back time. I don't play by my time. Okay. Teddy, Deanna, I'm gonna set this one out. Okay. Hey, Teddy, how you doing today?
Great.
Good. Let's say, for example, do you understand credit by chance?
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, let's say, Teddy, that you had a friend that's always borrowing money from people, never paying them back, and that same friend, maybe Dion, asks to borrow money, but never pays them back. What would you do?
I probably wouldn't lend them.
You wouldn't lend them. If you don't mind me asking why.
Because that's a high risk.
It's a risk. Ooh, great.
So you ain't gonna lend me no money?
No. So, look, if he don't care about his credit, he ain't gonna care about yours. So within that, Teddy, is that I just, you know, when you think of your credit, it's from 300 to 850. It's your risk assessment. The higher your credit score, the lower the risk. The lower your credit score, the higher the risk. And so that's why it's so important to make for sure that your credit is high as possible. Average is 640. Post-COVID, honestly, a lot of banks like to see a 700. And I'm talking about FICO and not Credit Karma. Yeah. So you want to make for sure that the higher your credit score, the better. I can walk into any dealership and get any vehicle. This young black girl that grew up in the hood made a way out of no way. I hit an 850 credit score. Today, it's the 845. And that's only because I'm leveraging and using some equity. But in that same token is one, your question, Deanna, is like, what advice is one? You need to understand credit. You can't go in there and blindfold. You have to truly understand what makes up credit. How does it impact you so you could be able to learn how to leverage it? Sure. That is the key to wealth if you want to keep it a buck. Like, it's your asset. It's when they say, can I go to a bank and get a $50,000 loan, no docs? That is true. Now, it ain't true if you got bad credit. Because let's keep it real. If you got a credit card, $1,000 limit, when the minimum payment is $35, and you have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days late payments, and you inconsistent, why do you think you could go into a bank and go get a $40,000 loan for an auto loan? It does not make sense. You have to understand your credit and start there. If you want to own a business, you need to have your personal finances. You can't say, oh, I'm about to go get business funding, because guess what? It starts with your personal credit. Right. If you couldn't manage $20,000 on your personal credit, why do you think a bank is going to give you $20,000 on a business? So to fast track building business credit is by PG and personal guarantee your personal credit. And so your credit is going to be that risk assessment. It's your adult GPA. So just like if you are in school, you get good grades, you study, right? You go get an A+. Yeah. You turn in your homework. Now, if you skipping and you're not, you go get an F. That's what your credit score is.
I like that.
So an 800 plus, 800 and up credit score, that's going to be A+. Yeah. Now, if you got bad credit, 300, 400, 500, less than 600, that's the F. You're flunking in life. You're paying 2 to 3 times more for having bad credit. And so people always be like, oh, that's too expensive. If I say, hey, you know, I have a credit for your company, come get your credit fixed. It takes time. It's so easy to fix it up and harder to fix it. But you can. And then they be like, oh, that takes too long. Well, what are you comparing it to? You done had bad credit all your life. You can't invest 6-9 months.
Right. Still gonna be there.
So your credit is everything. So one, make for sure that you're monitoring your credit. Make for sure that you're being proactive. And you could go to Experian and you could be able to get a update once a month. And so you could be able to see it. There's a lot of times people don't look at their credit. They turn a blind eye. They'll go out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then they want to check their bank account on Monday. You don't want to check your credit report until you got to go need your credit. And so you want to do that preventative care. You should always know what your credit score is.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add, and she sort of intimated it, but I'm going to say money costs money. And that's what credit is about. When we go out and borrow money, we're borrowing somebody else's money. There's a cost that goes to it. They're not just giving it to you. Right. They're not a friend or an aunt or an uncle say, here, take it as a gift. It costs you. Credit determines the cost of money.
Dang.
That's really what it is, whether it be the personal or the business. That's your cost of money. And the higher your credit score, the lower your cost is. And if you're a business, you want to reduce your cost and get the same benefit that you're getting. And what people don't understand, credit crosses all segments of your life. Business, getting a loan, it affects your insurance. It affects a number of things. It's a cost of money. And this is the way I tell people to look at it. They're like, well, what does it matter? Well, it matters because if you're in business, particularly, you got to go out and get some support, financial support from a business enterprise. If they're charging you 10% versus 5%,
Right.
that's doubling your cost of money, which means you got to make more money revenue-wise to offset that cost.
Yeah.
Credit is a cost, just like anything else. The only people that don't worry about credit are people who have so much money they don't need to borrow any. And there are some people like that, but the majority of us do at some point or another have to use credit. And whenever we're using credit, it's costing us.
Yep.
That's what the credit score dictates. How much is that money costing you? And I'll give you a personal example. I have a son.
Okay.
He went to buy a car. His credit is terrible.
Okay.
So I said, well, run his credit first and tell me, I was asking the dealer, well, and tell me what the interest rate would be. So he did it. I said, now run mine and tell me what the interest rate. It was half.
Dang.
Wow.
And so what that means to me is that do I then subsidize him and get the car for him? Or do I let him take the hit?
So two things, right?
Yeah.
You should have sent him the budget to success.
Yeah, okay.
But,
But my point is, it's a cost.
yes.
It is not personal.
No.
It's not discriminatory. It's a number.
Yeah.
And when she says she's at 845, she ain't got no problem.
You sat
She
up
can go
straight.
down
I did
any-
850.
When she said 845, you sat up straight.
Yeah, you sat up straight. But when you're at 600 or maybe 500, which a lot of people are at, they ain't got a prayer in hell.
Don't
Even
pray,
if
cross
they-
your fingers.
Even if they get a loan, it's going to cost them so much
It's
money.
expensive.
Now, I got to talk about this because all of us own cars, I think. Maybe not. People don't realize what a scam it is to go and borrow money to buy a car. And let me tell you what I mean.
Okay.
And let me tell you
Come on,
what I
because
mean.
we're about to have a debate today. It's
So-
about to get spicy.
So, how many people have heard people going into a car dealer and they say, how much can you spend a month?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
have
strategy.
heard that.
Okay, it's a strategy.
Yes.
So they don't even know what's involved in that payment.
No.
Well, I can get you this car for $200 a month, but you'll be paying for 10 years.
And that does not make sense.
And see, people fall for that stuff. They think only about, oh yeah, I can
How
afford.
much is the monthly
I can
payment
afford
amount?
$200
and
a
not
month.
the amortization of
But
the
they
loan.
may be paying 20% interest and don't even have a clue.
Yes.
And that's why I say buying a car isn't a scam, but the way the dealers work
Yes.
is somewhat of a scam because if you're thinking, how much can I afford each month?
Right.
You ain't even thinking about the cost of that money that you're
So
borrowing.
let me piggyback off of that for our auto loan tips. So yes, they ask you, their strategy is how much money can you spend a month because they want to fit in your budget. So a lot of people are in that scarcity mindset. Oh my gosh, my car just broke down. I need to get a vehicle. I got to get to work. I don't have transportation. And they're just signed and they don't read. Please read your contracts, baby,
that
read.
interest rate.
Okay. So within that, yes, that is true. So what they would do is to get the monthly payment low for an auto loan is instead of having maybe a 62 month, they may do it for 72. And
Yeah.
it does not make sense on some type of vehicles. You're doing a $10,000 loan and you have it for 7 years. Because what happens is that you have negative equity. So negative equity means that you owe more on a vehicle than what the value is. And so what happens, you get into a car accident and then you go get a new vehicle, but this car doesn't work. And now you owe on this car, let's say $5,000 remaining. So what they do, take that negative equity and roll into another one. So you're constantly going through life of
Sounds
playing
terrible.
catch up, and you have to do what you need to do. And that's why your credit's important. Stay away from buy here, pay here's too.
Yeah, it's just, it goes back to cost.
Yes,
You are paying too much for whatever you do if you have bad credit.
yes.
Yeah.
That's really the answer,
Yeah.
no matter what it is.
Some gems dropped there.
Now, did I answer all your questions? You said three tips?
Yeah, 3 tips. So, I mean, there was at least 20 in there.
She gave you
okay.
There's a lot
I
more
think
than
she
that.
was more than
There's
that.
about
Man.
64 in there.
Boy.
So,
It's have to be a master class.
I know. We
I'm gonna have to send you that invoice.
Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, we got to charge for this episode.
So
Watch it.
let's just talk really quick about marketing. I want to be respectful of your time. You're blowing up on social media. We peeped it. We saw it. You know, I know where you started out when you were just a little pup, you know, with a couple
I'm a
thousand
big dog out
followers.
here now.
Yeah. So what's been working for you on social media in terms of growing a social media following and building up, because we do have content creators watching this, and I'm sure they want to know, like, well, how come her page is popping and how come mine isn't?
Because it's Nicka.
I had a nice camera when I shot my footage. So
You don't even need all them expensive things.
what do you need?
You need drive. You need consistency. You need discipline. There's no magic pill for success. People will buy ebook, they'll go to a webinar, they'll do all these information overload. You'll Google everything in YouTube University, but you don't apply it. And so the reason why people are where they're at in life is because their habits are not in alignment of their dreams and goals. And so when it comes to social media, is that how bad do you want it? I played the game in a sense of reverse psychology. When you go to Amazon, you have two of the same products. Let's say it's a phone case. You're going to purchase the phone case with the most reviews. Why? Is because it's a trust factor. So I knew that I was better than a lot of people in social media. And yes, I said better, and let me clarify that. I'm so tired of these old cliches of like, oh, you shouldn't say you better. No, I'm not going to dim my light to feed into your personal insecurities. You are better by growing every time. It's not a belittlement, but I need you to have some class about yourself and increase your standards. Back into social media. But it's a reverse psychology of, I knew I was dope, I knew I was good, I was passionate about the work that I did, but the followers was not in alignment. And so it's a game that you play when it comes to social media, because marketing, the things that you guys do, you ain't gotta be good at business, you gotta be a good marketer. You gotta show up and be consistent. So if it's organic, if it's billboards, if it's gonna be radio placements, if it's gonna be sharing other people, followers and audiences, and email marketing, if it's ads, whatever it is, you need to market. And we can't keep thinking that my friends and family don't support me. That's not your target audience. We need to get back to the basics when it comes to business. So I knew to grow on social media, let me unfriend a lot. Let me quit following my friends and family, because I started on a personal page. But let me show you who Nicka Johnson is of Miss Budget to Success, that you can do it no matter what, but it's authentic. That's why people love and respect me. People do business with people and not logos. And so within that aspect, I tell you the good and the bad. I can have that BMW. I can have over $500,000 home. I can travel every month. I can have the 850 credit score. I can have the family and all of that. But I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to have my lights cut off. And people want to know the real. People get so caught up on the glitz and glam on social media of lifestyle marketing. I'm not that girl. I don't give a damn to prove to you that I got money. I don't need to go prove to a whole bunch of broke people that don't even have it. And that's what it be on social media. People be capping. People will rent houses, cars, Airbnbs, jewelry, and all of that just to give the illusion and say, hey, I made this money. What they fail to realize, you can edit that and Shopify and all of that. People Photoshop income, then they do a masterclass, then they start doing mentor, so people could think, oh, I want to be this person, but you ain't teaching a goddamn thing. So you got to do the 1%. You got to do everything what everybody else is not doing. What are you educating? Look at the myths. Look at what everybody else is talking about. Start debunking them. Be who you are. You don't have to go get your makeup done. I remember when I got on social media, I was like, okay, let me go get my makeup done. I'm not about to do my makeup every goddamn day. No, you gonna see me in this bonnet. You gonna see me in my highs. You gonna see me in the lows. You gonna see me when I'm crying. You gonna see me when I'm depressed. You gonna see me when I'm high. And that's what people could appreciate.
I love it. Authenticity.
You should be posting 3 times a day. Use your hashtags.
3 times a day?
3 days.
Some people going to hear that.
I grew 100,000 followers in less than 4 months, all organic, no ads.
3 times a day. Consistency.
Okay.
Consistency.
Where are you? Look in the mirror. You are where you at because of you. So take a dose of accountability, and are you consistent? Do you want it bad enough? I did it temporarily to get the following, and now my average reach is over 1 million all the time. I can make a post a week. I can go ghost.
That's lovely. I
It's
love
awesome.
it. That's good stuff.
I
That's
can't
fire.
add nothing to that.
Content is coins. I charge one company $1,000 to make it took me 5 minutes to make this reel. 5 minutes, and I charge $1,000.
Really? Those some gems for content creators out there.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are trying to figure out, how does the algorithm work? We even did our own little deep dive on the algorithm.
What do you think?
I agree. I think a lot of what you said is in line with what we found. I think, I would add to that there's always an aesthetic that works for you, and you have to find your aesthetic. And that's different for each person, right? Like, I couldn't do what you do because you have a different authenticity than I would have. But there's a consistency within that, right? You still got to do the post. You still got to do all the things that you said.
The only thing I would add has nothing to do with social media necessarily. But when she used the word consistent, and she also used the word accountable. If we're consistent and we're accountable, we have a greater chance of achieving whatever it is we're doing, whether it be social media or just business in general.
Yeah.
I think those two things are very, very important. And, and some people feel like they can't do it or other things are in the way. You got to forget all that and just push forward. And because, see, that at the end of the day, you really only have yourself to depend on. You can't control anybody else.
Nope.
But if you do what you're supposed to do consistently and be accountable for your action, you're going to be successful.
Okay.
Focus on
Whatever
what you
you're
can
doing.
control.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, now, I know we're getting close on time, but just with artificial intelligence and even if there's any kind of tools, apps, or anything that people can use to be able to do finances better, what would y'all suggest?
I'm old school, so I learned how to budget off of food stamps back in the day. My mama gave my siblings and I $50. We went to Phil's Foodway, and that was the check. Okay, not the blue and white card. I believe less and more, because we overcomplicate it. If you already don't like looking at your finances, if you already scared or feel insecure or embarrassed, you don't need some fancy tool or app. That's my personal opinion. You could budget off of pen and paper. What is your income? What is your expenses? Make sure every dollar is accounted for. Not the budget in your head, but the budget on paper. And then not only do you write that budget, you stick to it. You could set up text alerts. You could be able to online banking, mobile banking. There's so many different resources at our fingertips. But you can't run away from your problems. You have to run to it. So if your finances is an issue, you have to sit down and take ownership of, okay, this is where I'm at, but this is not where I want to be. So black and white, pen and paper, Excel, you could create one. Like, you need a budget. There's other things like that. Rocket Money, someone that I partner with, like, you can sign up for them and cancel your subscriptions. Look into your app store, and seeing where's your subscriptions. Them small dollars add up. And so make for sure that you're tracking that and be a better steward of your money, because one thing is that we do God a disservice if we say that we want to make more money, but you don't manage the money you do make. So it's not about how much money you make, but manage the money you do make. So you can't keep saying you want more, 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 and when he supply more, you do bad with it.
Right.
If you can't manage
built the habit.
$60,000, you're not gonna be able to manage six figures.
No.
Yeah.
And it's the same habit, that transfer. So you want to be a good steward of your money, and if you don't now, learn.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add is there are some apps out there. She's right. If you really want to, don't get intimidated. Just write it down on a piece of paper, right? I've told people that most people, what I talk to, they don't even know what they spend their money on.
Yeah.
Man, that's
So
crazy.
the first thing they should do is educate themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd say, let's go through this. Let's talk about, what do you spend for entertainment each month? I don't know. What do you spend on food? I don't know. There is no way in the world. I'm not going to take too much time, but this happened many years ago. A client came in, they were doing their taxes, and they handed me their W-2. And I said, wow, you did good last year. He said, I have no idea where it went.
That's most
They were
people.
over,
crazy.
they were
They don't.
over $250,000 in gross wages. And I said, how much do you have in savings? Nothing.
Dang.
I said, so are you interested in, this is what I said, are you interested in knowing where your money goes? And he said, of course. I said, okay, so let's start talking here. What do you spend on this? Because, see, it was amazing. They had no idea where they were spending their money. To me, the biggest key to doing a good job of using your money in a way that is helping you is to understand where you're spending it.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're spending it to begin with, you can't even begin to do better. You have to have a starting point. And that's what people need to do. They need to sit down, take a few weeks or a week or whatever, and just say, where am I spending my money? Because sometimes people spend a lot of money, especially in this day and age,
Yeah.
going out.
Yeah.
Fast
Restaurants.
food is, on average, I have clients that spend about $500 to $1,000
Fast food?
on fast food,
Yeah.
alcohol.
Good.
Yes.
And you'll never realize it because them small transactions add up.
Add up,
And
yeah.
so I would say look at your last 30 to 60 days bank statement.
Yeah.
Get 2 highlight colors. One is going to be for your wants and one's going to be for your needs.
That's great.
And that's a reality check of, you may think your money, if I say, where's your money going, Frank? Don't tell me bills. I want to know specifically where your money is going. And that's one thing that you could be able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a gem for me for sure. Being a single guy, I know the leisure account needs to be highlighted. So
Okay.
go back and look
So
at
you
mine.
ain't been in your budget.
Like, why y'all looking at me?
Okay.
Now, there are
That's
some
good.
apps out there that
Yeah.
you can
You getting
utilize.
sponsored for this, Frank? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there are some apps out there where you can, if you oriented that way. You know, some people aren't, but most
I like
people are.
apps.
You go out there and then
I
you
do.
plug in the information. It'll give you notifications when you exceed it.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
for instance, if you say, I'm going to spend, my budget is $100 this month on restaurants, let's say. When you exceed that, it'll send you a notification.
Oof.
Now, but you got to act on it.
Right.
Can't just ignore
It's
it.
not gonna do
But
that.
there are
Swipe
apps
up.
out there
I
that
know.
will do that.
I
It's
got
not
a million
necessarily
apps.
AI, but it is definitely some apps out there you
Automation.
can do.
But so Rocket Money.
So I love Rocket Money.
Yeah.
I have a partnership with them. So Rocket Money is the subscription app to where you literally log in, create accounts, sync it to your bank, and then it'll run a check and tell you where all your subscriptions at. And with a
Interesting.
click of button, that you can eliminate all of those.
That's pretty cool.
So some other resources I would say is, one, start with budgeting, manage your money. It's not telling you what you can't do, it tells you what you can do and prepare you for the future. Make for sure you always pay yourself first. I don't care if you have a 9 to 5 or if you have your own business. If I say, hey, Frank, can you come to work today? But I ain't going to pay you. Are you going to come in? And the answer is going to be no. So quit going through life doing yourself a disservice. If you save your money will save you. Credit, make for sure not only you understand credit, but learn how to leverage your credit. I'm able to travel for free, get discounts on so many different things. Hotels, complimentary upgrades by simply leveraging my credit. I make money off my credit, and I can liquidate it to cash. So I can get a statement in the mail and say, hey, I'm about to write myself a $20,000 check and go to the bank and cash it and get a 3% fee. Who could really do that? If you have bad credit, you can't. And also, you want to make for sure you manage your debt. There's a good sense of good debt, bad debt. Bad debt is the debt you ain't gonna answer this call, hang up. You're not checking your mail and things like that. It's the debt that's controlling you. But good debt is I invest into real estate, so that's an asset. So do I have it? Yes. But not only do my renter is paying my mortgage, but I'm making money off of that. And that was my retirement plan. Buy enough properties, and then when time comes to liquidate it and sell it, to be able to make for sure that I'm playing the long game. I don't want quick money, fast money. I never got into Airbnbs. I knew what I wanted to do, to go buy houses in a hood, and I allow that, and I pay attention to politics. You pay attention to politics, your money will follow. Where's the investments is in the economic development and grow from there. So when it comes to manage your finances is use ChatGPT. So AI, you could literally upload and attach a PDF or your bank statements and say, hey, Chat, create me a budget. Hey, highlight where's my spending categories and things like that, and
That's
talk
great
to it and feed
That's
it. So
nice,
you
yeah.
definitely can do that.
Yeah.
That's
Right on.
awesome.
I think a lot of people are going to want to know more about how to leverage their credit to get free trips and stuff like that. We're going into summer and the warm season. So where can people contact you after this episode to find out more about this?
Great question. It's all social media platforms, Budget to Success. That's Budget, BUDGET, 2TO, Success, SUCCESS. On Facebook, on Instagram, and I'm not on TikTok really. I have an account, but I have a whole lot of fake accounts. So I'm everywhere. You know, you can always go to www.budgettosuccess.net or is that in your budget.com, because I want to hold you accountable and work alongside you so we can make your dreams become your reality.
Love it, love it. 1 million views without TikTok is pretty crazy because that's usually the one that people say is the easy one to
But
build
you
up.
don't want fast success. I never wanted fast success. I don't want just a whole bunch of followers or a whole bunch of impressions, because that does not equate to dollars. So you can have a lot of followers. That doesn't mean you can't sell. So you need to know marketing and sales.
That's right.
Frank, I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to hear more about how they can break down their budget, how you can walk them through setting up their company so that next year they're ready. How can people get in touch with you? After
Well,
this?
I can be reached at 402-390-2480. The name of the firm is Hayes & Associates. You can reach me on email at fhayes@hayes.cpa. I'm not on social media.
Get you.
I have a LinkedIn page,
Okay.
but it all gets posted by my company. I don't do
Okay.
much there. But
That's a little
basically,
flex
I'm a little
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little old school. You reach me via telephone and email.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm old school. I write checks. I still write checks, baby. My checks cash.
Yeah, that's a little flex there. It's like, hey, I got my 42 years, okay, 41 years in business. So thank you to both of you guys for joining us today. This concludes this episode of the Content Parlor right here at the Content Parlor Studios. Just want to remind everyone, all of this equipment is available for rent. Hit us up on contentparlor.com, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, Teddy, for co-hosting.
Put in the budget.
Thank you guys. It
Thank
was
you
great.
for having us. Yes.
It was fantastic.
Awesome, awesome.
All right, just
All
a
right.
second.